Running shoes have gone from lasting years to DYing in months. The reason is a single component you cannot see from the outside. The EVA foam midsole that cushions every step, permanently compresses and cannot recover. Research shows shoes lose 20% of their shock absorption by 150 miles and retain less than 60% by 500 miles. Brands know this. Nike's own website tells you to replace shoes every 300 to 500 miles, but they will not tell you that a more durable foam exists. It costs $2.30 more per pound. That is the entire midsole secret. A $2 material choice that turns a $150 shoe into a 3-month disposable. In the 1990s, a new pair of running shoes could be expected to last half a year, sometimes a full 12 months before the cushioning gave out. Shoe catalogs and magazine lab tests routinely listed 500 to 800 miles as the point when midsoles finally lost their bounce, and most runners stretched a single pair across an entire training season without thinking twice. Today, that expectation has collapsed. Major brands now publish guidance telling runners to replace shoes every 300 to 500 miles. For anyone logging 20 miles a week, that means buying at least 2, sometimes 3 pairs per year. At modern prices, the math stings, with most running shoes selling for $120 to $180. A runner can easily spend $360 to $720 each year just to maintain basic protection. What's even more frustrating is that the shoes seldom look worn out. The tread still grips, the upper stays intact, but the hidden foam inside the EVA midsole has already given up most of its shock absorption. The loss is invisible, but the cost is real, and it's not an accident. Brands know that a more durable foam exists, and that the upgrade costs only about $2.30 more per pound. Yet the industry standard remains a material that compresses permanently and loses up to 40% of its cushioning in the time it takes to run a few months' worth of miles. For runners, this is not just a question of comfort, it's a cycle of hidden replacement that quietly drains the wallet year after year. A pair of running shoes can sit untouched in its box, looking flawless, and still be quietly rotting from the inside. Polyurethane, used in many midsoles for its soft ride, has a chemical weakness, hydrolysis. The polymer's ester bonds react with water vapor in the air, even at room temperature. Over months, this invisible attack breaks down the structure, turning what should be a springy foam into a brittle, crumbling mess. Collectors call it sole crumble, and it can strike shoes that have never touched pavement. Industry guidance is not subtle about the risk. Fleet Feet, one of the largest running retailers in the US, tells customers to use polyurethane-based shoes within 6 to 12 months of purchase. Leave them on a shelf longer, and you risk opening the box to find a shoe that has lost its bounce before it ever saw a run. This shelf life decay stands apart from the familiar story of wearing out shoes through miles. Here, the failure happens in silence, driven by chemistry, not by use. The result is a high-priced product with a hidden expiration date and a problem most buyers never see coming. Nearly every running shoe on the market today relies on EVA foam for its midsole, about 80% of pairs sold. The appeal is easy to understand. EVA is light, soft, and cheap to produce. But the comfort comes with a hidden flaw. Deep inside each midsole, the foam is made of thousands of tiny closed cells, each one filled with gas. When you run, these cells compress to absorb impact. The trouble is, this compression is a one-way street. Every heel strike crushes a few more cells, forcing the gas out through microscopic ruptures. Once a cell collapses, it never springs back. The process is silent and invisible, but it adds up fast. Laboratory tests confirm that by 150 miles, EVA midsoles lose around 20% of their original shock absorption. Push to 500 miles and less than 60% remains. The shoe may look fresh, but its core protection is already gone. Nike's official guidance tells runners to replace their shoes every 300 to 500 miles, a recommendation based on this irreversible collapse, not on visible wear. The kicker is this: brands could swap in a tougher, longer-lasting foam for $2.30 more per pound, but the industry standard still favors EVA, locking runners into a cycle of expensive hidden obsolescence. Independent labs have put the midsole to the test, stripping away the marketing and measuring what actually happens under repeated pounding. In one widely cited study, researchers used a repeat impact rig to mimic the force of a runner's heel strike thousands of times in rapid succession. The results are hard to ignore. After just 150 miles, EVA midsoles lose around 20% of their original shock absorption. That means by the time most runners have finished a single training cycle, a fifth of the shoe's promised protection is gone, long before the tread shows any real wear. Push the same shoe to 500 miles, and less than 60% of its original energy return remains. The foam may look fine from the outside, but inside, the microcells have collapsed for good. These numbers are not outliers. Nike's own guidance tells runners to replace shoes every 300 to 500 miles, a window that lines up exactly with the lab data. The science is clear. The midsole's functional life ends far sooner than the shoe's appearance suggests. And here's the kicker: brands could swap in a tougher, longer lasting foam for about $2.30 more per pound. That is the difference between a shoe that dies in 3 months and one that could last a year. Yet the industry standard remains a material that fails quietly, leaving runners to pay the price for a flaw they cannot see. Inside the global running shoe business, the real profit is not in the flashy mesh or the sculpted tread. It is in the foam hidden between your foot and the pavement. Ethylene vinyl acetate, EVA, dominates the market not because it is the best performer, but because it is the cheapest way to deliver that first out-of-the-box bounce. The raw material costs less than $1.50 per pound. Upgrading to a longer-lasting, high-resilience foam like expanded TPU adds about $2.30 per pound to the bill. For a typical pair, that means just $1.30 more in material cost. Yet that tiny sum stands between a shoe that keeps its cushioning for a year and one that is functionally dead in 3 months. Nike, whose annual revenue now tops $51.4 billion, spells out the replacement cycle directly. Runners should buy new shoes every 300 to 500 miles. At 20 miles a week, that is 2 or 3 pairs a year per runner. Multiply by millions of customers, and the numbers balloon: recurring sales, steady margins, and a steady stream of shoes that look fine on the outside but have lost most of their core protection long before the uppers or soles break down. The industry's own lab tests confirm the pattern. EVA foam loses about 20% of its shock absorption by 150 miles, and less than 60% remains by 500 miles. The math is clear, and so is the incentive. For just over $1 per pair, brands could slow this cycle, but the business case for rapid turnover is simply too strong. The result is a built-in obsolescence that is invisible to the eye but impossible to ignore at the register. Adidas built its Ultra Boost line on the promise of high-tech cushioning, charging a premium for the signature Boost midsole, the white, bouncy pellets made from expanded TPU. But in recent years, lab teardowns reveal a subtle shift. While the Boost pellets are still present, the proportion of cheaper EVA foam quietly crept up, now making up about a quarter of the midsole by volume. The retail price never dropped. Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy and calorimetry show the core is still boost, but the EVA carrier layer thickened, saving Adidas a few cents per pair, while the customer still pays full price. EVA, as every independent test confirms, permanently compresses, so shoes lose 20% of their shock absorption by 150 miles and less than 60% remains by 500 miles. Nike's own site tells runners to replace shoes from 300 to 500 miles. For just $2.30 more per pound, that midsole could last twice as long. The math is simple. The decision is not accidental. Not every shoe is destined for an early grave. A handful of models have built reputations for outlasting the industry average, sometimes by double. The Brooks Ghost routinely covers 400 to 500 miles or more before the midsole gives out. Asics Gel Cayano, with its denser foam blend, has been worn for over 700 miles by testers without bottoming out. The New Balance 990 V6 is designed for year-long use. Its midsole engineered to resist permanent compression and shelf-life decay alike. These aren't just exceptions, they are proof that durability is possible when brands make it a priority. The simplest buying rule: check the specs and avoid any shoe listing only EVA in the midsole. Look for models that blend in polyurethane, TPU, or call out high resilience foams. If a shoe's marketing brags about softness but never mentions lifespan, that is a red flag. If you have found a pair that survived a year or more, or have your own durability test, share it below. The real test of a running shoe isn't how it looks out of the box, but how it performs after hundreds of miles. You can't see the foam collapsing, but your wallet feels it. At $150 a pair, brands choose EVA midsole that loses 20% shock absorption by 150 miles, when $2.30 more per pound could last twice as long. The secret is not where, it is what they do not tell you. Share your take below.